That's the sound of episode 9 of Talking Couch Potatoes. Welcome back, everyone. It's the new year, and guess what? The new year means that I have my favourite co-podcast hoster, Mel, back in the room.
Hi, Matt. How was your break?
The Christmas break? It went so fast, Mel. It feels like it didn't even happen. It feels like I was just talking to you literally like an hour ago. Really flew by. And I know Mel spent most of the Christmas break rescuing some drowning greyhounds off the coast of Mallorca. I think she saved about 112 greyhounds. One by one, swam out, swam them back in. So that's what Mel does when she's having a break. Well done, Mel.
Thanks.
It's nice to have you back. We have a very special guest today, Jade, who's going to talk about a very important issue, the Greyhound Injury Full Recovery Scheme. And we've also got our regular segments, which we'll move into shortly.
Absolutely. Let's go.
Welcome back. And it is time for shout-outs, updates and promos. Mel, what have we got?
Okay, so I think one of the most exciting things is tomorrow night we have the premiere of the Little Grey film here in Western Australia. So we're really excited about that. Indy from Bad Publicity has produced and written this movie or documentary about greyhound racing and what happens within the industry and the life of a greyhound, if you like, of a rescued greyhound. So we're really excited to be a part of that. And we are very grateful also because we actually have some politicians coming along too, Labor and Green. They are part of the parliamentary Friends of Greyhounds that we have here in Western Australia.
Thank you, friends.
Absolutely. It's a really big thing for them to make a stand and say, you know, we're going to be a part of this. So we're very, very grateful. And hopefully there'll be more movies, documentaries about greyhounds.
To increase awareness.
Awareness, exactly.
And thank you to Indy.
Yes. Yeah, thanks, Indy. Unfortunately, he couldn't fly over, but he'll definitely be in our thoughts. We also have something else that's really exciting for greyhound advocates is a workshop that we're holding on the 23rd of February in Melbourne. So this is the first time, I think, Australia-wide that we've all come together to have a discussion about what we can do together to help greyhounds. So really, really a huge step forward for us. So there'll be ourselves, Free the Hounds. We've got about 5 people going over. Coalition for the Protection of Greyhounds, Blue the Grey. We'll be joined by the likes of AJP, the Greens, RSPCA nationally, and some other really big groups, Animals Australia, and then, of course, greyhound rescue groups from across the country as well. So we've got sort of a small cohort of people that really want to make change within Australia and greyhound racing and meet for the first time in, face-to-face, a lot of us.
Awesome.
So, yeah, it's a huge step forward for the movement.
That's fantastic. I believe that's at the Melbourne Town Hall.
Correct.
Is that right, Mel?
Well, our workshop isn't, but the Animal Welfare Forum is, yes.
Great.
Two great days. There's still tickets available for the forum. If anybody in Melbourne would like to attend, anybody can join and listen to some really great advocates about all sorts of topics to do with animals.
That sounds great.
Right.
What else we got going on, Mel?
Okay, so we are kicking off a 2024 petition to end greyhound racing. I know we've had...
How many petitions so far, Mel?
This will be our 4th.
And they're getting bigger and bigger.
Oh, absolutely. Well, last year was 18,600 and somewhat.
Yep.
It was still the biggest one for this parliamentary sitting. But this one is going to be different with an election coming up. We hope that if we can get the numbers that we will really make the Labor Party, maybe make it a platform to at least look into it or to
do something.
Make big steps forward. Yeah.
So, petition launch at Hyde Park.
That's
Fair.
right, the Hyde Park Festival on the 2nd and 3rd of March. We love this fair. It's a really nice weekend. And that'll also be hot off the back of the Welfare Forum in Melbourne. So hopefully we'll have some other really good information to be able to share with our followers that come along and pat some dogs and sign the petition. And
would you need some helpers for the petition signing?
Absolutely. You could even send an email to podcast@freethehounds.com.au and we can pick up your details off there. Happy to have anybody help us, would be wonderful. But also, if you are interested in having any flyers or posters, stickers to do with the petition, please reach out also and let us know, and we will get a pack over to you.
The more that get involved, the more we can make a noise.
Absolutely. It is only open to WA residents. However, there is 2 million of us here at least in Perth, so, or in Western Australia. So, you know, if we could even get 30,000 signatures,
let's break the record.
I'd love more than that, but yeah, let's do this, WA.
Awesome. Thanks, Mel. All right, here we go then. Mel is going to tell us all about a program called Greyhound Injury Recovery Scheme. So this is run by Racing and Wagering WA. It's known as the GIFRS scheme. I don't know much about it. Mel, could you tell us sort of what is this? Why are we talking about it?
Sure, Matt. Yeah, it is a good initiative. Anything that is ultimately going to help greyhounds rehabilitate and find homes rather than die is a step forward, definitely, for greyhound welfare.
Yep.
However, I think there becomes a fine line between wanting to save them all to either make your euthanasia rates look better, or B, just because you become so obsessed with making sure that they all survive. However, the decisions should be made, and some dogs, we feel, they've gone through the program, probably should have been put to sleep earlier. For instance, you know, there's some dogs that have been in there for 2 years within the program. Now, to us, okay, they've been saved, but what happens to their mental
So at what price?
capacity?
At what
exactly.
price?
What else goes on? Because they're in kennels mostly during this time, as we understand it. They're not in foster homes. We maintain they should be in homes because you can't really care for a dog with a bad injury, particularly in our summers here and things like that, that isn't living in a home. However, what happens generally on the track on the night is there's 4 things that can happen to a dog. They can be euthanased. This is if they've had a major injury. They can go home with their owner and their owner just continues full responsibility. They can enter the Greyhound Injury Recovery Scheme, which is what we're discussing today, which means that Racing and Wagering Western Australia take control or ownership, if you like, of the dog, and they follow the pathway through rehabilitation and into GAP, and then get rehomed through greyhounds as pets. There is also another scheme which we can talk about another time. We don't have much data on that though, and that is the Greyhound Injury Trainer Rebate Scheme. So that means the trainer takes the dog home. They are provided with a payment by Racing and Wagering for 13 weeks while the dog rehabilitates. The medical fee for the surgery is covered by Racing and Wagering Western Australia also, but then the owner maintains ownership of the dog through the whole thing.
Does the rehab?
Yes, okay. Yes. Generally, we've seen done because they want to use the dog for breeding.
Right. When did it start? When did the scheme begin?
The scheme began in August of 2019, and since that date, there's been 219 dogs go through. Now, so there's 219 have been through it, and that's 225 weeks ago that it started.
Right.
So that's almost a week a dog that actually enters this scheme.
Right. What happened, Mel, before the scheme was introduced?
They were euthanased pretty much.
Okay.
Prior to sort of around 2019, 2018, a lot of this data wasn't actually available.
Right.
I mean, it was, bits and pieces were, but not to the extent that it is now, which is a thing that Racing and Wagering have done really well. However, we feel that it's more because we've sort of pushed them into a corner rather than them going, okay,
right,
we're just going to do better now.
We push them to be
people,
to be a bit more transparent.
Well, they're expecting the public to take these animals on at the end of the day.
Yep.
So, and we're all rescuing a pedigree dog. So why shouldn't we therefore expect to know exactly what's happened to it?
And do we know what's happened to the 219 dogs so far?
Some of those have died. There's been 19 have died through there. The balance, well, many of them have been adopted. Some have taken up to 2 years. Some have taken 3 months. Depends on the injury. Depends on how well they recover. Those that have died in there, there's been death they're not sure of. A couple have gone through all the rehabilitation and then it was put to sleep because of its behaviour.
Oh, wow.
So it's a lot to go through. One died of osteosarcoma. Another one just this month, or in November, broke its other leg while it was playing at the Gap Kennels. So they put it to sleep. Right now, there's actually 27 in rehabilitation.
Does it involve surgery?
Yeah, it
Mel?
can be multiple surgeries. Most of them are their right back hock or ankle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's generally a plate is put in and screws, and then if the body starts to reject the plate or infection occurs, then they will have another surgery to take that out. Generally, it's quite straightforward and easy, but we tend to say it's like putting tractor parts onto a motorcycle. You know,
Right.
These greyhounds are so fine-boned and so small, and their skin is so, you know, yes, they can run, but I don't think they were meant to be made to run to the extent and for the time that we try to force them to.
And in the way they do, we spoke to
Yeah.
Andrew Knight last time, and this idea of running around in a circle and putting
Exactly.
all of the weight onto.
And being that late last year, there was 4 trainers with their dogs with pain relief on board, which isn't allowed within racing.
Right.
It makes you wonder how many of them are actually running in a condition that they shouldn't be.
Right.
So
Yeah, I've seen our little babies run, and they look very different to the ones that you see, unfortunately, sometimes on a track.
Yeah.
There's a whole different vibe going on.
Oh,
They
absolutely.
prance and pounce and
it's being happy and joyful, or being and trainers will tell you they switch on, they see the lure and they're onto it.
yeah, right.
But in the very name, having a trainer means that it's probably not all that natural to do it the way they're doing it
Yep.
right now.
Would this cost a couple of bucks, wouldn't it?
In the 21-22 financial year, Racing and Wagering spent over $3 million on the GIFRS dogs.
Right.
So much more expensive than lethal injection, but at what cost to the greyhounds?
Right,
You
what
know,
kind of life?
ultimately.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And then, of course, when you have someone that adopts them, what happens to the dogs in 3 years, in 4 years? There's been no follow-up that we're aware of. Racing and Wagering aren't looking at these dogs and looking after them long term. How many plates get rejected? How many of these dogs end up with really bad arthritis? How many end up lame or with further issues? We don't know.
So potentially this could be a really good stopgap measure that will reduce euthanasia stats,
Yeah,
but without looking forward to what are the ongoing chronic
exactly.
problems. We're missing a big part of the picture, would you say?
Globally, I don't think that there is a cohort of animals that has ever been studied to see what happens
Yep.
post-racing, because let's face it, greyhounds haven't lived as long as they've lived, or they are living until now, like in such large numbers.
Right. So
For any kind of disease to be looked at.
Right. So we just don't have the data.
We don't.
Which I think Free the Hounds have come up with, I guess, an attempt to gather some data, which we might speak to in a moment. And
Sure.
we're very lucky to have an interview with someone who's kindly donated their time, who has had an experience, I guess, of the program.
That's right.
Who has a lovely, beautiful creature who's been through the program. So I guess in an anecdotal, sort of personal way, we'll understand a little bit more about this.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
And then, Mel, you're going to let our listeners know how we can, in a more empirical way,
Yep.
start to gather
Yep.
some info.
Sure. I'll just say too, so there's not just the 27 being rehabilitated, there's also 42 that are preparing for adoption. So there's actually 69 dogs needing homes. So if you think of the 120 kennels or 100 kennels, it's not going to take long for them to fill up and still not have enough rehoming capacity for the dogs that are being retired at their regular point in time. Or the other side of the coin is, okay, they're not being euthanized, but where are all these dogs going to go? And I'm not suggesting for one moment that we start euthanizing them. That's not it. The thing is stop breeding so many greyhounds. Stop racing, but
Let's just stop racing.
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
that could
That'd be much
potentially
easier.
eradicate
all the problems.
because we've spoken about harmonisation. Andrew Knight had some episode 6, I believe. So have a listen to that if you think about harmonisation and some strategies we can use. But ultimately, I think Andrew agreed that the only way to really eradicate the suffering and the cruelty is that we just stop doing it.
Exactly.
And speaking, Mel, of the problem with rehoming as well, we had a great chat in episode 4 on the rehoming crisis with Tony. So if you're just tuning in for the first time, there's a wealth. There's an absolute wealth. There's a cornucopia of greyhound-related information that you could go back and listen to, and I urge you to do so.
Absolutely. Agreed.
Release the hounds. So Mel, the Free the Hounds survey that you have instigated, can you tell our listeners what it is, how they can get involved, what you're looking for?
Absolutely. You could go to Facebook or Instagram if you follow us. There'll be posts pinned at the top of our pages. Also onto our website, if you find Greyhound Health Survey, one of the tabs in there, you just need to answer a few questions. Sadly, we've got a lot of kickback from pro racers saying that we're trying to somehow connect osteosarcoma to fractures. It's not. We're just looking for people that have either had a greyhound that has had a major on-track injury, or a greyhound carer, slave, to fill in the survey and let us know how their dog is doing, or just to try and get some more data on it.
Yeah, you're just trying to fill a gap of information.
Absolutely.
And you can get that at freethehounds.com.au. Okay, as I said, we are very lucky today to have Jade. Charlotte is her long-nosed companion. And Jade's going to sort of share with us some of her experience of the GIFRS scheme. Hi, Jade, how are you?
Well, thanks. How are you?
I'm good. It's nice to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Are you a long-time listener, first-time interviewee?
Yes, that's correct.
Good answer. Good answer. Yeah, so love to hear what your experience has been. Tell us what sort of led you to adopt a greyhound in the first place.
So my partner and I wanted to rescue a dog. It didn't matter what type of dog. It was actually him that decided he wanted a greyhound. And then I did a bit of research and found a few different adoption agencies. The first one did fall through because they didn't adopt to apartments, so we ended up with GAP.
Okay.
And yeah, that's how we found Charlotte.
Right. So you went through GAP Greyhounds as pets, which I believe, Mel, that's the industry-funded rehoming body.
That's correct.
Right. So Jade, I guess, what was your experience with GAP?
Charlotte was the only dog we looked at. We basically got an email saying that they have this dog for us, that she's ready to be picked up the next week, and if we wanted to meet her.
So I guess you went ahead with it.
Yeah, we knew whatever dog we met, we would keep anyway.
How did the first meeting with Charlotte go? Was it love at first sight, or was it...
With me, yes, it was love at first sight. She sort of ran straight up to me and nuzzled into me. It took her a little bit longer to get used to my partner. She wasn't too fond of men.
Right.
So it did take him a lot of trying to sort of get a bit closer to her.
Yeah, I was going to say, how did Charlotte settle in?
She was crying a lot at night. She did have major separation anxiety. We found out after adopting her that she was terrified of other dogs. So if we were to take her out, it was a full-blown mental breakdown.
So you noticed that Charlotte had some problems fairly early on then?
The first night.
Oh, wow.
We took her down to go to the toilet and we ran into a sausage dog, and it was in the elevator. We were coming out, they were coming in, and she sort of backed up against the wall, started screaming, scrambling at the floor.
Wow. Were you aware of sort of previous injuries or current injuries, chronic conditions, that kind of thing?
On the form that we received for her, which was sort of like a little biography, we were told that she had broken her leg on the track previously and essentially that it had fully healed. So we did know. I guess we were under the impression that it was fine now, though. I assume we were told by the people that were in charge of her that she was better, and so we trusted that. When we met her, she was limping slightly on the broken leg from her injury. They did tell us that that was normal and that she will never necessarily be able to run like a normal dog or be a normal dog on four legs.
This is another thing that I think Jade and I have discussed since talking about Charlotte's injury, is that aggression that she had when she first came out may have also been from pain. Because when did you adopt Charlotte?
We adopted her in July of 2020.
Okay, so her injury had been just over a year previous. No, 3 months. March.
She got injured in March of 2020.
That's right.
So just out of rehab potentially.
Just like literally, yeah. And then when you compare it to what I was saying about dogs that you have in for a year or 6 months, maybe that rehabilitation wasn't enough for her.
Yeah.
Right.
You just don't know. And there isn't enough data. I mean, Racing and Wagering Western Australia don't go back, or have they done any catch-up? Did they do any catch-up with you to see how she's going, or, you know?
Nothing was instigated by them. I would send them emails giving them updates. I did send them an email when she started limping a lot more, and they sort of told me to just rest it. Like, it's normal. We walked her too much.
What were sort of some of the biggest issues you've had?
The very first issue was that we received an insurance report for Charlotte's broken leg, which was the screw that was placed in the leg, which initially stated that it was the right hind leg instead of the left hind leg, which we had to get fixed and ask them to change in case something in the future came up where there was a problem with the leg. So within a week they fixed that. But now she has had further issues with her leg where she has started limping more on that previously broken leg, which led us to then reach out to them and ask for help with that. At the time of emailing them, they told us that the leg where we were talking about was the incorrect leg and that their report said the, again, right leg. So that hadn't been changed on their end. But once we did explain to them that we had already been through this, they sort of just said, okay, well, that's enough. That's all you need. Any other details you can find yourself.
Right. Okay. So that's maybe one of the issues, Mel, with the scheme potentially, is that there's this maybe a bit of a patch-up job done, and then whatever problems emerge down the track are left to be managed by, you know, the people nice enough to rehome and adopt.
Absolutely. And I think that's something that Racing and Wagering need to make people very much aware of, is that there's no insurance for these dogs because it's a pre-existing problem. I mean, there's insurance for them, but not for that particular leg or part of their body. Is that correct?
We can't get pet insurance for any bone issues now because she's had a broken bone.
Oh, so not any part of her body?
No bones. And if something's going to happen with her, it's going to be that leg.
Exactly.
Or it was that leg. But
Yeah. Racing and Wagering have a complete history of Charlotte.
Yep.
The vet that worked on her have a complete history.
Yep.
Her trainer has a complete history. But guess what? You can't have it.
Right.
And why not?
And
that's what we don't understand.
That would be useful information,
It would
I
be.
imagine.
It would be, particularly that there is no insurance. So why not be open book policy, give all the information to every single owner of a dog that comes out of the GIFRS and say, this is what you're up for. Are you financially able to care for this animal that might have X, Y, and Z? We will follow up with you in 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. We're talking about an organisation that earns billions, apparently, and gives this economy billions of dollars. So why is it that the general public are not being helped out as well?
What do you think the motivation is, Mel? Why would they not want that information handed over to the people who are going to help this greyhound move forward in life and have a lovely life?
I think I'll let Jade answer that one.
What are your thoughts?
Because she can tell you what's happened since.
There's absolutely no good reason why they wouldn't want us to have it. The only thing that I can think of is that it wasn't done up to standard. It wasn't done correctly. There's something in there that they don't want us seeing because then we find out what's happened.
Can we ask Jade what she's got in that cylinder over there? Tell us about
There's
that.
a very small cylinder Jade is holding.
It is the screw that came out of Charlotte's leg a month ago.
Oh, wow.
When we realised she was having even more issues with her leg, she was starting to limp a bit more, we took her to an orthopaedic surgeon who said that we needed to perform surgery in order to see what was going on. And they found this screw used to fuse together 3 different breaks, one of which didn't fully heal, as well as sticking out on the other side of her leg by 5 millimetres.
Oh, dear. And that's I'm looking at it now. That's a good inch long, inch and a half.
Inch and a half.
It's also been cut at the end.
So she's been 3 years later. It's opened up again, looked at. You see that thing. The bones haven't correctly fused. Yeah, it isn't right. And it's not about saying that this scheme can't work, but it's about saying don't just put something in place and then do no follow-up.
Okay. And maybe this survey that Free the Hounds are doing we'll develop some sort of information on what's really happening. We can get some change there, perhaps.
Hopefully, or at least for the sake of the dogs, find out how we can go about helping more people and dogs like Charlotte, and that other people out there wouldn't know that there is actually things that you can do to help your dog, like physiotherapy, or that they could even afford it.
Yep.
So they've just figured that, my dog's just going to limp forever.
Yeah, a lot of what we saw is that people were saying that their dog had broken their leg, now they're limping for the rest of their life. I don't know why we're accepting that is normal just because GAP and Racing and Wagering have said that it is normal, and that's what we should expect.
Well said, I agree 100%. And just to underline that we are not advocating that people avoid adopting, rehoming, taking on these gorgeous creatures. We're all in support of that because they deserve a beautiful home. What we're saying is if there's going to be a system that's in place for these greyhounds to move forward and have a wonderful life doesn't involve constant pain, constant injury, limping. That's not the idea of a wonderful life we have in mind.
Absolutely. And trainer subsidies, stake money and breeding bonuses are anywhere from $400,000 a week is spent on that, and only 1% is going to welfare. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
That's extraordinary, isn't it? 1%.
1%. So the trainers or the owners of these dogs going, hands up, Barley's, I have no more responsibility. How about they have to put a $2,000, $3,000 bond on this dog so that if later on, for the rest of its life, if the new owner has to come back, there's at least that amount of money that the new owner knows that they've got access to help the dog.
Are you talking a little bit like maybe a retirement fund?
Exactly. Superannuation for the GIFRS dogs.
Super fast annuation for the greyhounds because they're super fast. Yeah, it's a bit, many times we have a bit of fun on the podcast, but sometimes I get a little frustrated, Mel. It seems some of this stuff seems straightforward to me and quite contradictory because you have those in the pro racing industry who have some reasonable arguments at times, say that we love and care about these dogs. And then we find out 1% of the money they get from these dogs goes to loving and caring for them.
And that's only been in the last year.
Right. So either put your money where your mouth is or stop talking shit.
Exactly.
So Jade, what sort of advice would you have for people looking to adopt a greyhound who's been through the scheme?
I think my biggest piece of advice is to constantly ask questions. If your dog's limping, get it checked out. If it's starting to have sort of any blood blister or something wrong with where the screw would be, get it checked out. Don't necessarily take them saying that it will be fine for the rest of its life as fact when it's been proven that it's not.
And what a lovely mum you've been, Jade, to sort of do all of that work and to be vigilant and advocate. So I'm hoping, because you did all that, that Charlotte is doing a little better now. How is she doing?
She's doing well. We've just finished the weekly checkups at the vet, so the bandages are off and she's starting to walk normally. The only problem is that she's so used to being ridden around in her little cart now that that's expected every day.
Did she get drawn around at Christmas time like
She
a
did.
Santa sleigh?
She did. We put decorations on it,
Awesome.
some tinsel.
Very cute.
I've seen a photo of Charlotte, actually, and she's adorable. She smiles. She does seem to want to be carried around like a little baby, which, makes sense. I like that myself at times, Mel.
Yeah,
No.
no, she's very cuddly. She likes to hold hands. She likes to be picked up and bear hugged. And
If Jade sits down, it's like she just expects to
front
sit on her
paws are
knee.
up on my legs. And
Right. Well, she's very lucky because she found a mummy who saved
Exactly.
her. So,
Very lucky.
yeah. Thank you so much, Jade. Yeah, maybe we can talk again sometime down the track after the survey.
yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Jade.
Thank you so much.
Release the hounds. Stop this insanity. Well, that was a little heart-wrenching, but also very informative. And thanks to Jade again for giving us her time and coming into the studio. I wish she brought Charlotte in.
I know.
would've
We've
been
got to
nice.
find out whether we can have dogs in the studio.
I think should we do it and just not tell anyone?
No,
Did
I
I
don't
say
think they'd
that?
mind.
I could cradle Charlotte as we speak.
You would be able to. Yeah, and please, to those listeners that might have a GAP dog or have a dog through the Greyhound Injury Recovery Scheme, This is in no way any kind of demonisation of your dogs or the process that you went through or what you have been through. It is about let's make things the best that we can. There is people in power that have the ability, have the money to be able to make it better.
A better system, a safer system.
And we need to put the pressure on them to do that.
Yep.
And that's all it's about. It's the best outcome for the greyhounds.
Yeah, no, we celebrate those people with big enough hearts to take on what is a big job. So, yeah. Thanks for listening for this one. Guess what, Mel?
What?
We, after this one, the next time we talk again and meet again, it's going to be double digits for Talking Couch Potatoes, episode 10.
Gosh, it's gone so fast.
It's flown
really.
by, hasn't it?
It has, yep.
Big shout out to all our listeners. Once again, we have listeners in 11 countries. I'm not going to list them all. Our listener base is growing every single episode. So to help us grow, because it's not about us, it's about the beautiful creatures, please listen, rate and share. Listen again next time, because next time, Mel, I believe we have another wonderful guest on the show potentially.
That's right.
We get the best guests on this show.
I know.
And the reason we get together and we get these great guests is because we want to inform people. We want to hopefully end an outdated, unsustainable sport, if you can call it that. And the main goal, Mel, is that we shall one day release the hounds. Then we'll watch them run free.